Week 9 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few quarterbacks. I have his sleeper options this week. First quarterback, Joe Flacco of the Indianapolis Colts. Flacco's going to be the starting quarterback indefinitely with Anthony Richardson benched. And they should have went to this move a few weeks ago when Richardson went out originally with injury. So Joe Flacco in the few games he started this season. Week 4 versus Pittsburgh coming in relief. 68 pass yards, 2 touchdowns in that one. Week 5 at Jacksonville, 359 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, 22 rush yards, a fumble loss. And Week 6 at Tennessee, 189 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. So this week, not a great matchup at the Minnesota Vikings, but the Vikings do give up the 10th most fantasy points, believe it or not, to quarterbacks on the season. So Flacco out there 90% of fantasy leagues. We saw last season when he went to the Cleveland Browns in the second half of the year, he led them to the playoffs. And in the 3 games we've seen him so far this season, he's had 17 or more fantasy points. So Joe Flacco in deeper leagues, I think, is a decent sleeper option, even in a tougher matchup. Next quarterback, Jameis Winston of the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston got his first start of the season last week, and he went out there and had a monster performance, 334 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and a fumble loss in that one. So this week, not a great matchup versus the Los Angeles Chargers, but still a beatable secondary. I believe that Jameis Winston could get the football out and make plays. We've seen guys emerge now like Elijah Moore, who hasn't done much over the last season and change. David Njoku's really breaking out with Winston at quarterback, and Cedric Tillman, a nice season over the last couple of weeks. So Winston, we know he's a gunslinger. We know he gets that football down the field. We also know he's going to turn it over at times, but he could put yards up in a hurry and find the end zone as well. So this week versus the Chargers, I think he's a decent sleeper option, available in 88% of fantasy leagues. And the final quarterback I have as a sleeper is Gardner Minshew of the Las Vegas Raiders. I know Minshew, he struggled all season long, and I know he's a deeper league type of play. But last week, he actually went out there and put up decent numbers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. 209 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 rush yards, and a fumble loss. So this week on paper, a good matchup at the Cincinnati Bengals, a defense that really hasn't stopped anyone all season long, giving up the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. And he still has a decent group of weapons: Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, even after the trade. Obviously, had Devontae Adams to the New York Jets a few weeks ago. And Gardner Minshew, he's a gunslinger as well. But obviously, his upside isn't like a Jameis or Flacco. But I think in a deeper league sleeper option, Minshew might be usable, available in 97% of fantasy leagues. So that's a few quarterbacks I have as sleepers for Week 9 of the fantasy football season.